Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video we're going to study India's development over the past decade, from 2014 to 2024. Now, development is not just about GDP or money in the economy, it's about improving the lives of people. To measure this, economists and policymakers look at multiple indicators: economic growth, human development, health, education, and poverty reduction. We will go step by step using both theory and real data, and I'll walk you through a simple chart that shows how India has changed in these 10 years. Let's begin with the economy, because it often sets the stage for everything else. In 2014, India's GDP was around $2 trillion. Over the next decade, despite global slowdowns and even the shock of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, India has continued to grow. By 2024, India's GDP stands at nearly $3.7 trillion, making it the world's fifth largest economy. If you look at the chart in the top left, you can clearly see this upward jump. The light blue bar for 2014 shows the earlier size, while the navy blue bar for 2024 shows how much bigger the economy has become. This growth has been driven by reforms such as GST, improvements in ease of doing business, digital transformation, and a boom in sectors like IT services, manufacturing, and infrastructure. But the key question is, has this economic growth translated into improvements in people's lives? Let's look further. But the key question is, has this economic growth translated into improvements in people's lives? Let's look further. The Human Development Index, or HDI, is a composite measure of income, health, and education. Back in 2014, India's HDI was around 0.609, placing it in the medium human development category. By 2024, it has risen to about 0.685. That's the green bars you see in the top right of the chart. Back in 2014, India's HDI was around 0.609, placing it in the medium human development category. By 2024, it has risen to about 0.685. That's the green bars you see in the top right of the chart. Now, this may look like a small numerical change, but it represents big, real-world improvements. More years of schooling, higher life expectancy, and better per capita incomes. India still ranks around 134 out of 193 countries in HDI, which means there's work to do before we enter the high human development group. But the progress over this decade shows a steady climb. Next, let's discuss life expectancy. In 2014, the average Indian lived about 67 years. By 2024, this has risen to around 70.5 years. That's the orange bars you see in the bottom left of the chart. In 2014, the average Indian lived about 67 years. By 2024, this has risen to around 70.5 years. That's the orange bars you see in the bottom left of the chart. This rise is linked to better healthcare access, government programs like Ayushman Bharat, improved immunization, wider availability of clean water, sanitation, and better nutrition. While a 3-year jump may sound modest, remember, for a population of 1.4 billion people, that translates into millions of additional healthy life years. However, India still lags behind developed countries, where life expectancy is 75 to 80 years. So the task ahead is strengthening healthcare infrastructure, especially in rural areas. Now let's come to one of the most important aspects of development: poverty. In 2014, about 29% of Indians were living in multidimensional poverty, which means not just lack of income, but also poor access to health, education, and living standards. By 2024, this has fallen sharply to around 11%. That's the red bars in the bottom right of the chart. According to the World Bank, extreme poverty has also dropped to under 3%. By 2024, this has fallen sharply to around 11%. That's the red bars in the bottom right of the chart. According to the World Bank, extreme poverty has also dropped to under 3%. This reduction means hundreds of millions of people have moved out of deprivation in just 1 decade. Rural electrification, cooking gas connections, toilets under Swachh Bharat, direct cash transfers, food security schemes, and skill development programs have all contributed. But we must remember, the remaining 11% represent the hardest to reach groups, often in rural or marginalized communities. Closing this gap will be a major challenge going forward. So what explains these improvements between 2014 and 2024? There are 5 key drivers. Economic reforms like GST and FDI liberalization. Welfare programs expanding access to electricity, sanitation and health insurance. Education and health investments increasing schooling years and improving survival rates. Digital revolution. Mobile phones, internet, UPI payments transforming governance. Targeted poverty programs reaching the poorest households. Each of these combine to push India forward. Yet, despite this decade of progress, challenges remain. India must address inequality between states and between rural and urban areas. Quality of education is still a concern, even if years of schooling have gone up. Job creation, especially in the formal sector, has not kept pace with population growth. And environmental sustainability, pollution, and climate resilience are urgent issues. So development is not just about celebrating success, but also recognizing the work ahead. To conclude, between 2014 and 2024, India has expanded its economy, raised life expectancy, improved human development, and lifted millions out of poverty. This decade shows us that development is possible, but it requires consistent policies, inclusive growth, and attention to social welfare alongside economic expansion. The big question is, can India move from a developing nation to a developed nation in the next 20 years? That's something we'll continue to track here. If you found this lecture insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.